This session of esped 101 is to help you learn to manipulate and traverse through esped. While I will not go into detail on how to write PLAFs, IEPs, in other words, goals and objectives, we will explore where and how to input that data. Same thing with data collection and the service logs. For those other subjects, there will be courses on Schoology to help with that as well. In order for you to be able to access esped, you must have an Aldine email address. This is your usual username for any program in Aldine. Next step is to let me know that you need access. My contact information is on the handouts. It is easier to let me know by email. You will have to register on the Special Ed intranet. Instructions on how to do that are located with the handouts. It is the registering on the Special Ed Department intranet. You will need to know your employee ID number with the zeros in front to total 7 digits and your Novell username. It is generally the first part of your email address without the @aldineisd.org. Once you register on the Special Ed intranet, it takes an overnight update with the system for your access to kick in. Once you have registered and the update has gone through, you are ready to log on. Remember that esped is web-based. You can access it anywhere you have an internet connection. That, in other words, at work, home, Starbucks, McDonald's, wherever. Here is what you need to log on. The website address is www.esped.com. Your username is your Aldine email. An example would be mine, would be mkgray@aldineisd.org. For your first tip, if you're working on a computer that you are generally the only person using, then you might want to click the Remember Me box. It will keep your username in that box whenever you first log on. Sometimes that little time saved helps when you get busy. The first time you get into the system, you will need to use the default password, Aldine with a capital A, 902. Once you get into esped, the system will prompt you to change your password. Make sure that you use something that you will remember, as neither Jason nor esped nor I can retrieve password information. But if you do forget your password, just click on Forgot Password and esped will email you instructions on how to reset or change your password. When you change your password, this is what you should see, the dashboard. You will note that your name is listed as the user. Right now, I am logged in as a teacher, so my screens will match yours, so you will not see my name. The dashboard will show you the apps to which you have access on the left side under Document. You will see the bulletin board. This is where esped and or Jason will put announcements or notifications or special dates. At the top, you will see the logout, My Profile, and List Webinars. The My Profile is where you can change some settings in your esped. Let's look at the programs, or as esped calls them, apps. For the teacher role in esped, you have access to the Archive Manager, ARD Forms, eStar Docs, and Progress Reports. Now let's look at what they do. Archive Manager is like a file drawer. It is where the student's paperwork is filed in a PDF format, so it is for viewing only. Instead of trudging down to the DIAG's office if you needed to look at an ARD for an IEP or an eligibility, etc., you can go here for that information. Of course, you can go to the DIAG's office to look at the legal folder, but the same information is in Archive Manager. ARD Forms is one of the apps that you will use all the time. This is where all forms or documentation for the ARD are kept. Your PLAF screens, your IEP screens, your COSF screens, service log screens are all housed here. eStar Docs is like a library. This is where all user guides are housed. It's It is a shared drive where we can upload various things for users' needs. This can be forms, flowcharts, process maps, directives, guidelines, etc. I like to have Jason put my handouts from the training sessions here so that if you are at home or etc., you will always have a copy. Progress Reports is the other app that you will use all the time. This is where you will record your data for your data collection. You will use this data from the data collection to update your IEPs at the end of the grading period. You will update your IEPs through this app as well. Now that we are back to this screen, let's look at the top in the My Profile section. Remember that earlier I mentioned that we can change some settings in esped. This is it. In My Profile, you can manage your esped experience. At the top, you will note that your Aldine email address is listed along with the password. Here is where you can change your password once you get in the system. Those of you who have been in the district know that periodically Novell wants us to change our password. Well, once I change it in the system, I generally go to esped and change my password here to match. I will admit it, I'm a creature of habit, and I like the passwords to match. So I click on Change Password button, and it will pull up a box where you type in your new password. Then it will ask you to do it a second time. Once you click on Save, your password is changed. You will also note that it will have your name listed under full name. Then there is an alias box. I do not use this, but I'm probably the best example of why you would use the alias box. My full name is Mary Kathleen Gray, but I go by Kathy. I do not answer well to Mary, but if I know you're speaking to me, I will. In esped and all things Aldine, I am listed as Mary Gray. I could go in here and in the alias box type in Kathy Gray, and while I'm in the system, Kathy Gray will show up in the drop-down. Now, I do not use this because it's easier for me just to use the new text box anytime I need to add my name. You will want to leave the alternate email box alone. Just leave it blank. However, the next few items are good to note. Let's look at timeout. Each screen will time you out after a specific time period. esped defaults to 20 minutes. As a teacher, you should leave it at 20. This time is essential because if you're working on something then called out, say you go to ARD, you're back from lunch, etc., then your work is protected. The nice thing with esped is that if it times you out, it automatically saves what you're working on. Now you're going to want to leave the navigation style at drop down. However, page size is something that you may want to change. This gives you a choice of how many students to see at one time when you're looking at the student screen before you have to click on the next button for the next group of student names. Consider the number of students you work with on your campus. If you have 40 students in esped on your campus, you may want to put it at 30 or 100, depending on how many draft files you have available on students. While we are on this screen, there are a couple of things that esped does recommend. They recommend that when you open a screen that you go ahead and maximize it. This keeps you from going to an unwanted screen with a click that you did not mean. esped also recommends that if you have a close button on the screen, use it to leave the screen. Do not use the little red X at the top right of the screen to close out. That will take you out of the system and you will have to get back in. Only use the red X when there is not a close button. This is usually found on any PDF records that you open. You will need to use the red X to close it. Now that we have looked at my profile, let's close it out and look at the apps on the left side of the dashboard screen. Let's look at the ARD Forms app. You just click on the word ARD Forms. It will take you to the student selection screen. Whenever you click on any app except for eStar Docs, you will get the student selection screen. The ARD Forms app is where you will write your PLAFs, write your goals and objectives, and complete The IEP support service logs or the related service logs. Let's look at the student selection screen. You will note that the students' names are alphabetical. Their record status will either be active or draft. Let's look at the draft file. This is the student's name that you would select if you were writing any new PLAFs and IEP goals and or objectives for a new annual ARD. If the student is having a new FIE completed, there will be a new annual ARD. Now for the active file. This is where you select the student's name for all current information. You will do your service logs, any data collection, and updating of IEPs in the active file. Even if a special review or revision ARD is being held to replace an IEP with a new IEP, the new IEP will be written in the active file. So you want to select the student's name with the appropriate file or record status. The campus is listed. The next column is the local ID. That is the 6-digit number that's listed for the student in eSchool, which is our PEIMS system. The other column that is important is the special ed status column. The majority of the status should be currently served. You could see some that are marked referral. So now let's say that I need to write a PLAF and an IEP. First thing I want to do is select my student. You will find that in esped there are several ways to do things. I'm going to show you the different ways, and then you can select the one that is most comfortable for you to use. I will tell you which one I prefer and why, but it's still up to you. Now with that disclaimer, let me locate my student. I can type in the last name, and that's generally what I do when I look for a student. Or you can type in the local ID number, or if you have a short list of students, you can scroll down the list and click on the student. Either way, once I find my student's name, I will click on the name. Note that when my cursor goes over the name, a box will show up with basic demographic information. Once I select my student and click on their name, I get what is called the FERPA screen. esped is set up for you to give a reason why you want to look at the student's information. Remember, it is confidential, so you have to select a reason. If you do not, you do not get to see the student's record. So here are my choices as a teacher. When writing new information such as a PLAF or IEP, I would select the first one that says, I am writing this student's IEP. Let's say you are needing to input data in the data collection. You could select the fifth one, I am updating the progress the student has made. This one also works for service logs and updating IEPs. So if I need to write a new PLAF and IEP for a new annual ARD, I will select the active file for the student. Click on his or her name and select the first choice. I am writing the student's IEP. Once I click on the circle, esped takes me to the student information screen. This is the student information screen. Most of the information at the top of the screen remains the same for any screen. You have the student's demographic information at the top. That way you will always know in whose file you are working. Above that, at the very top of the screen, are two drop-downs, Recent Students and Recent Screens. Both drop-downs will show you the last 5 to 6 screens or 5 to 6 students where you were working. Sometimes moving back and forth through the system using this option is quicker than closing out the student, selecting another student, clicking on the FERPA reason, when you can traverse the same screen but with different students. Now let's review the buttons on the navigation bar. On the navigation bar, the first one is Save. You can click this to save any data you input on the screen. esped also automatically saves when you change screens or if you're timed out of a screen. The Close button. You can click on this to leave the program. It will send you to the dashboard screen after you log on. Or if you are working on something and you click on the Close, it will generally take you back to the previous screen. The Previous button. Clicking on this will allow you to return to the screen before this one. As mentioned earlier, the system will save any changes, input information on the screen. The next button. This will send you to the next screen down. Let's say you are currently on the Development of IEP transition screen and have finished inputting your PLAF. You can click on the next and it will send you to the Measurable Annual Goals Standards screen to input your goals and objectives of your IEP. When you move to the next screen, the system will automatically save any changes or data you input. The Students tab. This will send you back to the list of students. Remember, if you wish to view all students, you will need to click on the View All button. The Reports tab. This is where you can print IEPs. If you want to print the entire IEP, you would print from here. The Preview tab. You can preview what you have input and you can print from here. It will print only the screen that you were on. The Print Archive tab. You can print and archive from this screen. You would use this when you are closing out IEPs for a new annual ARD or at the end of the school year when you need to archive your IEPs. Now let's look at the screen options. If you click on the drop-down button, you will see the following screen choices to which you have access. The first one listed is the student information. This shows the basic demographic information for the student. This is the same information as in eSchool. eSchool controls all demographics as the systems are talking every night. Any changes in eSchool show up in esped the next day. If you see anything that needs correcting, check with your campus PEIMS eSchool clerk to make the changes. The contact information screen. This gives you the parent guardian information. Once more, this is the same as what is in eSchool. My next screen is the Review of Additional Evaluation Information screen. This gives you the FIE dates, eligibility information, etc. While you cannot change or edit the data, you do have viewing rights. This will help you with your PLAFs. The next screen down is the Development of IEP Transition screen. This is where you will input your PLAF. The Measurable Annual Goals Standard screen. This is where you will input the goals and objectives of your IEP. At the Student Goal Progress screen, you can access updating your student's goal-only IEP. However, usually you would go to the Progress Report app to update that information. The same with the IEP Progress Objective screen. While you can access it here to update your IEP with your goals and objectives, usually you would go to the Progress Report app to update that information as well. The final screen is the Child Outcomes Summary Form 1 through 3. This is where the SPP Indicator 7 COSF information is input for those students who meet the entry and exit criteria. Let's look at where you will write your PLAF. Click on the Development of IEP Transition screen. You will see that you can view the transition but not edit anything there. You want the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance section. Note that there are what looks to be empty boxes or pages. If something is written there, the page will be grayed out. If it is grayed out and I wanted to see what was there, I can click on the plus sign. While the plus sign does not open the box, it allows me to preview what is there. To close it out, you click on the minus sign. Let's look at the subjects listed. Most are self-explanatory. Science and Social Studies will go under Other, and that is where Adapted PE will put their PLAF. Now let's see what it looks like to click on the white page. As an example, I want to click on Other as I am inputting a science PLAF. You will note that it pulls up a text box. There are over 500,000 characters allowed in the text box. That is over 50 pages of PLAF. Now, I know you're not going to enter that much information, but I want you to know that you're going to have plenty of space for your PLAF. As I am in the other and working on science, I'm going to list science and then the parts of my PLAF. Please note in the text box I can bold, italicize, and underline. I can use lists with numbers or dots. I can change the alignment as well as the font and the size. However, let me warn you, my recommendation is that you can use anything but Comic Sans. It just is not a professional looking font. Otherwise, the others are fair game. As far as font size goes, select 12 or 14. Please do not use anything lower than a 12 as it is difficult to read. Remember that your assessment specialist may change the font and or the size to make the paperwork look organized. Check with them to see what they would like for you to use. Once you finish, you can click on Save and it will return you to the previous screen. If you click on Save and Continue, it will save your work and leave you in the text box. If you do not make any changes and want to get out of the text box, click on Cancel. If there is something you want to copy-paste into the text box, do not use the copy-paste feature. Use the Add Image button here to copy and paste. If you just copy and then paste into this box, it may or may not print when you are ready. Also watch your spacing. If there is too much space, you may have problems printing. Once you finish your PLAF, go on to the next one until you have them all input. When you are finished with all the PLAFs, you can either click the next button to go to the Measurable Annual Goals Standard screen, or you can click on the drop down and select the next screen. Here is where you will write your IEP goals and objectives. For a new annual ARD, and if you are the first person to write an IEP, you will see a big light blue box. Once the IEPs are written, they will show up here. So to get started, I'm going to click on the Add New Goal button. First, you will need to give the goal a number. You will number them by subjects. The numbers and the subjects are in your handout. I would suggest that you look there rather than me list them in this audio. Next, after you have selected your goal and the number, you will put in the dates for duration. The first date will be the date of the ARD meeting. The duration date will be the next calendar year minus 1 day. For example, if my ARD is scheduled for October 1st, 2017, my duration date would be September 30th, 2018. On the right side, you will see a set of boxes. Draft, ESY, accepted by ARD committee, etc. Leave these boxes blank. It's the best advice I can give you, because if you click the draft button and it is not removed before the file is made active, you will be unable to print your IEPs and or your updates until that check is removed. So it's just easier to leave it blank. You may also want to skip the Add Modifications and Accommodations box. Next, you will select the language, English. Goal focus is your subject focus. It will be generic. Example, instead of Algebra 1, you would put Math. Grade level is the current grade level, and you must put in the grade level. If you do not, you will have problems with the behavior objective if you use the goal constructor. There are many ways to input your goal. Some people put this information in a Word document and copy-paste it in here. Some people feel free to write their goal, or you can use the esped goal constructor. So I'm going to go ahead and explain how to use the goal constructor. This is a wizard that will help you form your goal. Once you get to the goal constructor, you will want to use the drop downs to answer the 4 component areas. The first one is the time frame. You're going to want to use by the end of 36 instructional weeks or by the next annual ARD. Check with your assessment specialist for their preference. For the second component, condition, this is where your modifications and accommodations that the student uses in that class. You do not need to list all the accommodations and mods that the student receive, just what they need for that particular subject. Let's say the student has math charts, calculator, blank graphic organizer, and a dictionary. But I'm writing an IEP for math. I may use the math charts and the calculator, but not the dictionary or the blank graphic organizer. For the third component, behavior, this is where you will click on the Find TEKS. This will give you a box where you will locate the TEKS standard that you will use for this IEP. You want to find the TEKS that matches the baseline data in your PLAF, and it must match the baseline data in your PLAF. Or you can choose New and type in your behavior statement. The fourth component, criteria, is going to be your mastery level. Note that as I complete each area, the goal is added to the measurable annual goal box. You can also go into the box and make adjustments. You may want to change the student's name. Remember that the goal constructor is one way to input your goals. You can also free type in the box, or you can copy and paste from a Word document. The next box is going to be the implementer. You will select the implementer. The implementer is special education teacher or whoever is applicable. Some examples are: inclusion would be a general ed / special ed teacher. Special ed counselor would be special ed counselor. My PPCD teacher would be special education teacher. If I have a PPCD teacher and a speech path working on this IEP, I would select PPCD teacher / SLP. Then for the methods of evaluation, once more there are drop downs for each selection. We've tried to make it easy for everyone by using classroom assignments. We recommend that you use classroom assignments as it covers everything: teacher-made tests, homework, worksheets, quizzes, etc. However, you may list what you want to use. Just remember, what you list is what you have to use when you get ready to look for data for your data collection. If you list 4 things, then you must use all 4 for your data to update the IEPs. Not 3 or the 4, but all 4. If you're writing a goal-only IEP, you are finished. You go back to the top and click on Save. Criteria for a goal-only IEP is that the class does not receive an alternate or modified curriculum. If the student receives modifications, they cannot have a goal-only IEP. They must have at least 2 objectives. Now you can see how once you add your IEP, it lists them in the light blue box. Also, once you click Save, it returns you to the Measurable Annual Goals screen. This is the only place where you must click on Save. Any other part of the system, it will automatically save when you change screens. This is the one place where you must click the Save button. To add another goal, click on Add New Goal button at the top and repeat the process. If you are not writing all the IEPs, then only write yours, and when it shows here and you're happy with it, you are done. However, let's say you need to add objectives or make any changes to the goal. You click on Edit, and the system will return you back to the screen where you can write them. To add objectives, click on the Create New Objective button at the bottom of the goal screen. This is basically like the goal. At the top for the code, select your number from the goal and add a 0.1 or a 0.2 or a 0.3 as appropriate. Or you could use point A, point B, point C. Do not click that draft button on the right side for objectives. If you do so and the click remains, you're going to have problems printing your goals and objectives or the updates. One trick to use here is to copy your goal and then paste it in the objective box. Once you do that, you can edit it, or you can use the objective constructor to create your objective. Remember to use the box to make any corrections to your objective if you use the objective constructor. Click Save and it will return you to the previous screen. Then select Create New Objective to insert another objective. Remember that you will need a minimum of 2 objectives for each goal for any student receiving a modified or an alternate curriculum. The objective is now showing, and if you wish to change or edit anything, you need to click on the pencil next to Edit. To add another objective, click on the Create New Objective button. When you number your objectives, it indicates the order in which they're going to appear or print. Now to print. You can print several ways from here. One, you click on Preview. Once the IEPs with the goals and objectives come up as a PDF, you right-click on your mouse and select Print, or move your mouse to it will either be at the bottom of the page, to the left of the page, or at the top right corner. You will find the little printer icon, and you just click on it. The second way is you can click on Reports. To print from Reports, from the screen drop-down, select Print Individual Reports. Then highlight Development of IEP and click on the Create button. That will take you to List Reports. If you click on the View button, this will pull up a PDF, and you can right-click and select Print, or go to the printer icon and click on it. You can also save to your jump drive or My Documents and print it later. It will save it as a PDF file. Now remember, you cannot make changes to it. It's a PDF file. Now let's look at the Progress Report app. If you are just logging into the system, you can select the Progress Report app from the choices on the left side. Like the ARD Forms app, you can click on the Progress Report and it will take you to the Student Selection screen. Select your student and give your FERPA reason. This time you will select the Updating option. Then once you select that, it will take you to the student's demographic screen. Now let's say I'm already in the system. Say I'm in the ARD Forms app. You can simply check on the application drop-down and select Progress Reports. It will be the same student, but will automatically take you to the student's demographic screen in Progress Reports. In the Progress Report apps, you will enter your data points, in other words, the data for your IEP updates, in the data collection screens. Screen 5 is for a goal-only IEP, and Screen 6 is for a goal and objectives IEP. To update your IEPs, you will use the IEP progress screens. Screen 2, which would be for a goal-only IEP, and Screen 3 would be for a goal that had objectives. Let's look at the data collection screens. The first screen that I'm going to go over with you is going to be the goal and objective screen. This would be for my IEP goal with objectives. And I want to look at this one because it's the one that you're probably going to use the most. You will put the date of the first grading period in the first available box on the left side. If all the boxes are used, go to the top, put your date in, and then delete all other dates that are not from last school year. So you will delete all but the 3 or 4 from August 2016 to June 1st, 2017. Then the box below the last date, if there are any empty boxes, will have the date of the first 9 weeks for the 2017-18 school year, or 10/13/2017, regardless of when you start entering your data points. So let's say I'm collecting paperwork, grades, data for the first grading period on August 23rd, and I will still use the 10/13/2017 date in the appropriate box. Then I'm going to go to the objective that you want to enter the data for. Right now, let's say it's the second objective for math. I will click on the data collection button. You will note that the objective is already entered as it was accepted at the current annual ARD. I need to enter the information that I need to enter here is going to be the data collection type and the aim line. My data collection type is going to be percentage, and my aim line is going to be my mastery criteria. In this case, the mastery criteria is 70%. When I get ready to enter my data or my data points, I will click on the New Entry button. A collection information box will appear. The entry date is the date of the assignment. It's not going to be the date that you're entering the data points. Let's say I had an assignment from 8/23, and I'm just now entering my data on 9/15. I'm not going to put 9/15. I want the date that's on the assignment. My successful probes is the percentage of the IEP objective from the assignment that the student got correct. This is so confusing, so let me see if I can clarify it a little bit. Let's say you have a 10-question quiz. 4 of the questions on that quiz pertain to your IEP goal or objective. Out of those 4 questions, they answered 2 correct. They would get a 50% when entering the data point into the data collection in esped. So my successful probe would be 50. But if they got all 4 correct, they would get 100% when I was entering my data point. The intervention required box, let's just go ahead, we're leaving it blank. Put your name in the staff member box. Remember, I can either scroll, I can start typing my name, or I can, at the new, click on it and just type your name in. In the comments box, you're going to want to indicate what accommodations and/or modifications you used for that assignment. Then list any other behavior or notes that you can use when you do the new PLAF for the next annual ARD. Once you get all this information in, you want to click on the Save box and it will save your data. Note that the average box will change with every data point that's entered. You're going to be using the same process even if it's a goal-only IEP, except you will use screen 5. Now I have all my data collected and it is the end of the grading period. I need to update my IEPs. I have given you your dates for the grading periods. The first 9 weeks is going to be August 21st to October 13th. The second 9 weeks, it's October 16th to December 20th. For the third 9 weeks, it's January 8th to March 9th. The fourth 9 weeks, it's March 19th. Remember that I should already have a date on the left side, as that was started when I started my data collection. For example, I'm going to update my objective of my IEP goal, screen 3. It is not a goal-only IEP. The process is the same for a goal-only IEP, except it will be on screen 2. It's just a different screen. I will then click on the Show Objective Progress button for whichever objective that I want to update. Then I will go to the numbered box that reflects the number for my corresponding date. This example would be the number 1 box. Click on the Progress box and enter the data in the box provided. Percentage for the grading period goes in the Progress Code box. Then click on Update Period 1 and it will save the update. This is the goal-only screen, screen 2 for updates. After you click the Edit button next to the appropriate goal, you will input your name and position that indicate the frequency. It will always be 9 weeks. The report date is there already for you. Remember, that's from when I started my data collection. You will indicate the progress code. This is from your data collection, either in esped or Review 360. As we are updating any goal-only IEPs, you will not use the code NADR not addressed. That is for objectives only. You will then indicate whether or not the progress is sufficient at this time for the student to be able to master or achieve the goal by the next IEP date. Remember, this is based on your data and your professional opinion. You will then indicate whether or not the progress is sufficient at this time for the student to be able to master or achieve the goal by the next IEP date. Remember, this is going to be based on your data and your professional opinion. Do you think the student will be able to master this IEP by his next annual ARD? Then you will indicate what action is needed. If you checked yes, that the progress is sufficient at this time, you will need to select none, where it asks you to indicate what action is needed. Because if he's passing, if he's making progress, we don't need to do anything else other than what we are normally doing. Now, if you checked no, you need to select another action other than none. And if anything that you check with no, whether it is a new ARD or parent conference, whatever, you really need to notify your assessment specialist of the action. If you're saying that we need to have another ARD, she can't schedule an ARD unless you let her know about it. You will then make any comments that are appropriate, or then again, you may not have a comment. Just remember that if you make any comments, you need to make sure that the comments are objective and professional. Remember, this is a subpoenable record. It can always be subpoenaed. Also, you want to make sure that you use spell check on any comments you place in the box. When you are finished, click on Save, and then on Done to update another IEP. And that is how you will do your IEP updates. I know that I've gone over a lot of information in a short time. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My contact information is on this last slide. Thank you for attending the esped 101 for Teacher training session on Schoology.